Hello, friends. This is Akulmach Live, and I'm Chandrakant, welcoming you to this section of the Likeable Leaders. Today, we'll be talking to a very distinguished personality who has traveled the world, lived in many countries. He has been coaching a lot of leaders. He has been interacting with a lot of chief executives and guiding them. This is going to be very, very interesting discussion. And, this is going to be pinnacle of what we can learn from such an experienced soul. So stick around to this outstanding show and we'll be starting our discussion in a moment. Welcome back, friends. And we have a very distinguished personality in our studios today. He's joining us from Singapore. He's CEO of a very different type of company called Global Nomad. His name is Mr. Kevin Cottam. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thank you so much, Chandra. It's wonderful to be here with you.
It is our pleasure, Kevin, and I think there'll be a lot of learning in today's discussion for our viewers. And you have been a very, very accomplished leader, globally known. We would like to know how your journey started, how you became what you are. We would like to enlighten us about your story.
Sure. I mean, it's quite a long story, actually, so I'll try to make it as short as possible for everybody. But when I'm Canadian, and I started my life on the west coast of Canada in a logging camp. So maybe many people won't know what that is. A logging camp is where you cut down trees, and it was very Canadian at that time. Then I went to school and became a figure skater. So in my figure skating days, I became a Canadian champion. And then I went on to become a choreographer because I was also a dancer. And I was able to become a choreographer for national world Olympic champions, so elite figure skaters. But also I reached out and I branched out to rhythmic gymnastics and also synchronized swimming. And so this was all wonderful. And then I also did very large productions. So one of the very, very large productions I did was the closing ceremonies of the Olympic Games. And as we know, it's all coming up in Tokyo very soon. And so I'm very excited about that. But that was part of my life. And then also very large touring figure skating shows, multi-million-dollar. And also, within that, I had to really spend a lot of time working with teams, and I think that was extremely important. Building teams, harmonious teams, ones that work together. Not just the skaters themselves, but in large shows, it was always departments, right? It's like the costumes, the lighting, the set design, everything there was, and even HR I had to deal with. So it was always that, because I was not only the choreographer, but I was also the creator and the director. But then after that, I thought, I want to move into something else. And so I moved into coaching. And even though I was coaching before, it was in a directive style in sports, but then it went into a non-directive style. And I thought, how wonderful would be this to be a full circle. And so that is what I did. And I loved the coaching. And so I started coaching at the European Union in Brussels. And in fact, I still am. And so that's one of the areas that I do coaching in, with heads of units and managers and directors and secretary generals and director generals. So it's really the food chain, so to speak. And so, but then also I became an author, which was also very interesting to be able to do. And I never thought I would ever do that. But much of my life, I didn't really plan it well. It just sort of appeared. And most of the time, I just kept on moving on. And why did I move on? I realized only when I moved on, was maybe a few years ago, why I started to connect the dots of my life. And I realized that people kept on saying, why are you moving? Why are you changing your profession? Why don't you just stay put? You're successful, you're doing what you do, you love what you're doing, and you're making a lot of money. And I said, yeah, but I just wanted to continue to move on. And I realized that in fact, I was not running away from things or running away from responsibilities. I realized that I was actually running towards. And I was moving towards an expanded and evolved self. And that is my quest not only for myself in this journey of life, and as you would understand, as we talked about, Chandra, is we're just passing through this period in our existence, and I want to make the best of that. And so that is the self-discovery. And I realized that even though I was doing all these things, but I didn't realize I was actually self-discovering at the same time until the penny dropped. And I think that was something that was very exciting. And I realize now that I am a global nomad, and I've lived all over the world. And that I never, from a logging camp, you would never have thought that I would have been doing all this. And I never thought so either. I mean, it certainly was not in my family, and certainly not my surrounding. But so yeah, that's kind of where it all is, and it's been exciting.
Very interesting, Kevin. I think you have seen really all the transitions which happens with a lot of people. In fact, almost majority of people go through these transitions. So what are the learnings from these transitions? I'm sure there are a lot of learnings you have gathered all these years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the greatest learnings that I have learned, especially when I started to do very large shows, was that collaboration was extremely important. And to realize that I don't know everything is that it's important to have a lot of strong people around you, and there's a lot of people with knowledge. And as they would say, always surround yourself with very, very talented people, because then it'll make you look good, because then they will be supporting what you do. But also it was such a huge learning in that sense. So collaboration is one, and also to know that I don't know everything is another, and also to listen very deeply, to observe individuals, situations, everything, and to really understand that everything that is put in your way is a seed of opportunity. It's not a failure, it's not a success at that particular point, but it is a point of discovery. So the curiosity. And I think that's what started very early in my life, was curiosity of travel, was of different cultures. I remember the very first time that I ever came across Indian people. And so I had a client, and they were very well known in the area as a figure skating client. And the children, they're Sikh. And so I was fascinated not only with them, but they would bring me their food, and I always wanted to know everything about the food, and I just wanted to know about the culture. And to me, that was so exciting. Whenever I happened at one point, I went to teach in Kamloops in the interior of BC, and culture was interesting. I had a Japanese client, which I'd never had before, and I went, I'm so fascinated, and they started to teach me some of their language and their food, and I was just so fascinated. And I think that curiosity of people is really what the biggest thing is for me in my life. And I think for everyone ought to be, is that the human race is quite amazing. And we're so full of such great gifts. And from all different cultures, we see things and listen to things, and we do things in a very different way. But I realized when I was doing my journey for the nomadic culture, from the Nomadic Mindset, the book, is that when I was sitting in a tent in the Sahara, the master of it, he said to me, because he'd known by others telling him what I'd been doing and why am I sitting there in front of him. And he said, what makes us all similar? And I had to think, because I was never really asked questions like this. And I said, it's your humanity. And it was the humanity at the level of the base level of values and behaviors is actually very similar across all. And we all pretty much want the same for each other. We want, and love is there, and heart is there, and being together, and belonging. All of these things are the same. And some of the traditions are the same in very different ways, but similar. And it depends on the environment. So they're shifted to the environment, they're shifted to food, to language, to religion. And I think that's what the most important thing for me is, humanity. And that's what I've learned most of all, the expansiveness of humanity, the joy of humanity. And the reason that I wrote my book, The Nomadic Mindset, was because I felt that we've become too narrow and we've lost the plot. Is that we need to explore, we need to expand ourselves, we need to get back to what is that base level of humanity, which I found from the nomadic cultures, which is there and rich within them. And so that's, one of the reasons that I wrote that. And what I do now with clients is helping them discover and explore and evolve, but to find, what is actually obvious, and simple. Chandra, so many of the clients, the businesses, they say, oh, can you help us on change management? Can you help us on leadership? Can you help us build trust? Can you do all these things? And when I ask nomadic cultures this, they look at me like, why are you asking such silly questions in many ways? Because it's like, this is just normal. This is just the way things are. You build respect, you gain respect, and then we'll trust you. But if you don't, we don't. That's as simple as that. You walk your talk, you're consistent, and that's it. Change, why do you even talk about change? Because it's a waste of energy, because it's just always changing. So, why we have this challenge? And I think that COVID has certainly brought a lot of understanding around resilience. And I think that is something which is, indigenous to us, is resilience. But we become too comfortable, and so we don't know how to bounce back. So these are things that I've learned, and which I think are rich. And I'm sorry that I've gone on too long, but it makes me very excited to talk about it.
Well, Kevin, I think it's very interesting, because my next question was about what are the learnings for the leadership, but I think you covered that. So, in changing situation, you have been to Sahara, you mentioned, you have been a figure skater, you have been a choreographer, you have lived across the world, different situations, you've tasted and tried different foods, different cultures, and all of this require a certain element of leadership. I think you have covered that subtly, and our viewers will understand exactly where the leadership quality is coming from, the journeys that you have. And you have many accomplishments. What is the one thing that you feel that you did not accomplish? If you like to tell us about that incident.
One thing I did not accomplish. From a very early start, I have this running joke with a friend of mine, and I said, I'm going to be a millionaire. And so, of course, in early days, a million was like a fortune, absolute fortune. And so now it's really sort of like $2, so to speak. And so for some people, but so I have never made a million. And so that was one of the, but I've made a million, trillion in other things. And that is what I would say in my experience. And the knowledge and the people that I've met, that is more important to me than heaps and heaps of cash. So I don't relate it to cash, or maybe I should, and maybe that's the problem. but I think that, one of the things that I haven't done is that. The other thing that I perhaps haven't done is travel to certain countries, which I would certainly like to. And I have never been to South America, which I would love to. I have only just started to touch Africa, and Africa is my next exploration. And the journey hasn't stopped. The journey continues. It just keeps on evolving. And I think that that's the important thing for all of us, is to continue evolving. We take a rest, and then we move on again. We take a rest, and we move on again. You can't keep doing it like crazy. So, accomplishments, I've had a lot of accomplishments. The biggest accomplishment that I love most of all is seeing the glint in someone's eye when they have realized they have made an achievement, or seen or come to an epiphany. And that is what's the most exciting thing for me, is for them to be able to see their potential. And that's what my life has been about, and it will continue to be about.
Kevin, you talk to so many chief executives, leaders, coaches, and your interaction on day-to-day basis is with these kind of people. What is the one or two essential ingredient of success, especially when it comes to senior leadership? If you can tell us that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we come to that whole concept of what is success, because success is absolutely different for everyone. Some people it's just money, some people it's position, some people it's title, some people it's, just finding themselves. So when I look at leaders, they're all different, and most of them have in their mind the success of their company and bringing it to higher, returns on investment and everything for the bottom line and profits. But I believe behind that screen is the actual humanity, is deep. They sometimes fight with that as to how to be able to bring that to the table and to be really authentic with it, because of the pressure from boards of directors, shareholders, the stock market, everything, the pressure which is on them. But I do believe that the ones that I see are struggling, and they're struggling today and even before with not enough time to actually reflect on not only themselves and their life and their families, but they don't have enough time to reflect generally. And I think that is one of the weaker parts that has come across very strongly from everyone that I've met in and been working with in coaching, is the time of reflection. And the wealth, as you know, Chandra, the wealth that comes from reflecting and sitting still and being and observing and just allowing that, what I say, to allow the mind to move, to go into a variety of different pathways, to be creative. And so this is one, I believe, as I said, humanity is at the base of all of that, for all of them. Some not, I would say. Some it's just money. But it's hard to get past that layer, because it's all layers of onions, right? And you need to get down to and I believe that's the place that I move towards, is getting to the center of the onion. And because that's where you really get the truth.
Kevin, I know for sure that you are in the arena of, teaching the teacher, or leading the leaders, whatever you want to call it. And I see there is a book which is on your shelf, and you have written that also. So what are the growth areas where you want to participate going forward from here?
Growth areas. I mean, I would say that growth areas are simply always, it's personal. It's the personal growth. It's the continual personal growth. And not only for myself, but also for clients. It's that continual personal growth of them and helping them to expand and to explore, because that's what I do as I help them as a coach, to help them widen so they can see the bigger picture. And growth, I think, growth in business, that's a different part of the layer, is to expand to as many different cultures as possible, and to be able to reach as many different organizations. But I'm interested in working with people that are really on the verge of moving into some sort of exploration, that they want to emerge, they want to evolve, they want to shift, they want to change, not only personally, but how does that help them? So that's my space, and I want to continue to explore the growth from them myself. How can I help them and guide them? But also how that can also be extrapolated from them, pulling it out from them. So growth is really, again, around personal development for me, and also achievement of that soul, bringing it out.
Friends, we had such a beautiful discussion. We learned so many things today in our discussion with Kevin, and I was personally energized after talking to him and learning about so many things. And obviously, 20 minutes is not sufficient to talk about lot many things. So we will request Kevin to join us in future again and talk about specific subject, basically to train us, train our mind, and also prepare us for the future. So friends, I like to say goodbye, only to meet you next time.